Good evening. Welcome to the University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Stan Zweifel on this Monday night. We've got a lot to talk about on this program as the Spartans were victorious this past Saturday in the Key City Clash over the Loras College Duhawks, and they look to finish out the regular season strong with a visit from the Central College Dutch coming up this Saturday to close out the regular season. So a lot to get to, and Coach, wow, what an exciting ball game. That's all I can think of is, wow, what a game it was, as it has been for 5 times in a row, decided by 7 points or less, and this one was the same, but this one went to overtime.
Yeah, as we talked about last week on the show, I thought they were a very good football team. I thought it'd be a very close game, and we had talked it probably was going to be decided upon mistakes more than anything else. And I think where there's an equal number of mistakes on both sides of the ball, and I did mention before we got on, it really was an intense, emotional, high energy contest, and you could feel that from the get-go when we came out for warm-ups. I really thought there was something in the air. They were very excited about playing the game, and I think our men matched that excitement level. And it ended up being a real classic game. I don't know if it was a well-played game necessarily, and I don't know if it's a classic when you look at it, but boy, oh boy, was it exciting. And the ebbs and flows, the highs and lows, which I always talk to our guys about a season and a football game. That's really why you play a sport, being able to handle some of the adversity that you get forced into and some of the bad things that happen. It's not that the bad thing happened. How do you respond to what's happened to you, whether it's good or bad, and continue to play the next play? And I thought our guys really hung in there well.
Well, I mean, there was a lot on the line for both teams. I mean, Loras is playing their senior day and their last game of the season, and obviously they're playing the University of Dubuque, and you're playing for a lot too. Still a shot at a conference championship,
yes.
And of course securing a winning season, which is always a big deal. And so yeah, there was a lot going on.
A real lot, I thought. I thought they won that game. They're 6-2 and probably have a chance to be tied for second place. And I don't know how far that's been back, but they would never been in second place since I've been here, and that's 14 years. So they were playing for a lot of significant things for their football program and their future. They had a number of seniors who took an extra year, and I think you take an extra year in our rivalry to try to beat your opponent. And I think there are a lot of guys that thought this would be their year, and of course, whatever that is, it is what it is. It makes no difference to me one way or another, but boy, you could cut the tension with a knife out there in the pregame part of it, because there was some elevated emotions in that game.
27-20 was the final, and it went to overtime at the Rock Bowl. 14-14 ball game at halftime, and like you said, it wasn't the cleanest played game in the first half. 5 combined turnovers in that one, and you win the takeaway battle there. But it was both teams turned the ball over a little bit. You took advantage of 2 of those turnovers with
Tim,
touchdowns.
when you talk about that, surely the level of play, the hitting, that part, the aggressiveness, that was part of those terms. But let's not forget the weather. It was a very windy day with some rain in there, and etc. But it did create a little bit of havoc with the kicking game, I thought, more than anything else. And so punts were hard to handle. They fumbled the punt to give us our first possession and get our first score. But all those things kind of took place. But it was interesting because I never felt that any team was gaining a superior advantage in any form or fashion. I thought it was going to be as close as it was. I didn't think it was going to overtime, my friend, but it did go to overtime, and we were able to prevail in overtime.
You scored first, as you mentioned, touchdown run by Owen Zach, who's really, as you mentioned last week, we talked about him, has really come on and really been quite a weapon for you. You've got 2 or 3 outstanding backs there.
Absolutely. We feel like Tyler, as we mentioned last week, was injured early in fall camp, and then he kind of fell behind, which is always what happens in fall camp when you don't get to take reps. And as I told you, I think the last 3 games he's been as good as any back we've had in the last 2 years. And we had a number of really good runs by both him and Buckner had the unfortunate unforced fumble, which really took some momentum away from us in that particular drive. I thought we were going to score, but irregardless of all that, we had to overcome that part. But what's happened with Tyler playing more, we've developed some depth. And we got Duckworth, who last year rushed for 128 yards against Loras, and he's our number 3, and we think we have a good number 4. So we've created some depth in that running back position. And so that bodes well for the future because we are, oh my God, we're babies in the backfield. We really are. 3 sophomores and a freshman, and our quarterback's a sophomore, our back's up a sophomore, our backup is a sophomore, and our backup's a sophomore. And so we are really young in that backfield.
We already chronicled the windy day, the conditions, but quarterback Ben Gultig, 21 of 29, had that 1 interception, but 3 touchdowns, and he was made a little uncomfortable at times. They had 8 sacks in that ball game.
Oh my God, he was uncomfortable, so were we. And one of the things, Tim, it reminded me so much of the Marietta game. When we had time, we were really efficient and really dangerous. But we gave up way too many sacks, and we're very fortunate that we could win that game with 8 sacks. And I want to say this about Ben. Boy, did he hang in there, because he took a beating, my friend. And there were a number of times that the sacks he got hit after the throw and did some stepping up in the pocket, and they came with some engaged blitzes, as we called it. The running back protects, then the backer comes, and he stepped up into a couple of those. So they got after us a little bit in the front. And the biggest thing I thought that Ben did was he did not panic in those situations. The interception was a ball that was underthrown, in my opinion, because of the wind. We're trying to do what we call a number 2 trajectory, throw it over an outside corner and in front of a safety, and it hung a little bit. The wind did, and they got an interception on that. So, I thought he played extremely well, good efficiency, doesn't turn the ball off very much, and just is a tough kid.
14-14 ball game at halftime. What was the scene in the locker room as you went in and the discussion? We had
a really very calm locker room. We're talking about what we could do and what we couldn't do, and talking about 14-14 is a 0-0 game, and that's really how we thought it was going to be. And we knew that the game was going to be close, and I thought they were playing really well. I'm talking about Loras now, Tim. I thought they played really extremely hard, and I thought they had some good schemes up, both offensively and defensively. And kudos to our men about overcoming some of that stuff and putting ourselves in a position to win.
Yeah, you certainly were able to, rally at times to take away momentum that Loras had been able to seize at times. Third quarter, scoreless ball game in the third quarter, but then the fourth quarter, Loras kicks a couple of field goals, and now you're down in this one by 6 points.
It's interesting, Tim. I thought the turning point in the game was after we fumbled the punt or muffed the punt, and they got the ball on our 33. In the first play, I think they got 12 yards, and now they're 1st and 10. If they score there, the game's over. And our defense bulled their neck, took away 2 short runs, created 1 incomplete pass, and forced the field goal to make it a 6-point game rather than a 10-point game, because now it really changes where you are. We have to score twice. And I thought that was the key play in that game to allow us to have a chance to come back and tie or win. And as it played out, I didn't think we were going to score the way we did, my friend, but the way it came out, that really was a huge factor in that game.
Well, let's talk about how you did end up scoring with less than 4 minutes to go in the ball game. You get the ball back, down 6 points, and we didn't talk about this guy until now, but he's got to be up for some Division III honors this week. Wade Sheets, your receiver, 13 catches, 186 yards, 3 touchdowns, and of course that touchdown in a group of defenders to win or tie the ball game.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's going to believe me. I'll just tell you, we practice that every week. On Thursday, we put our 4 last plays of the half and the game out there, and we don't always do it live because there's a lot of moving parts in that thing. There's a lot of guys jumping around. So we end up going, I think we're 3rd and 12 at one time. We end up being 4th and 27 as a result of a hole. And I'm like, holy cow, son of a gun.
Not many plays in the playbook.
No,
4th and 27.
None that I know of. And I just said, hey, let's go put Hail Mary out there. We call it sure thing. The common term fans call it as Hail Mary because obviously the praying for something good to happen. And I mentioned this to you off the air, and I'll say to the folks, it's, You know, the ball is thrown up and you're hoping you're going to get a tip. That's what the whole thing is about. We got a guy in front and a guy in back, and the middle guy goes up and tries to keep it alive. Well, they did a hell of a job. They knocked one of our guys off, so we only have 2 in the end zone. Sheets is the point man. He's supposed to get 2 yards in the end zone. He's the tall kid, and he's going to jump up and get the ball. Well, the ball's slightly underthrown. Got a nice arc on it, but slightly underthrown. And a Loras kid is coming up to really either, I thought they made a mistake not knocking it down, but that's another story that you can talk about another game. We coach the heck out of our guys. Anytime there's a 4th down play and the ball's in the end zone, do not try to catch it. Do everything you can to volleyball spike it. Well, the Loras kid's stepping up to make an interception, and Gary Young, one of our backup receivers, makes a hell of an effort and tips the ball up with his right hand so it goes back up in the air.
Wow.
And that goes back to between Loras and Sheets, and the ball is, I don't know, it's, hey, who's got it? Heck if I know. But we end up with the ball and get a touchdown. It was a tremendous effort by Gary Young, excuse me, to keep the ball alive, and just a heads-up play by Wade to try to get what you're trying to accomplish, get a tip ball. And, you know, there's a wrestling match and all those things that take place. I thought it was dual possession. It doesn't matter. It's a touchdown. Now, holy cow, we're going to win the game, and what do? We miss the extra point. Oh, man alive. I'm thinking, this cannot be happening. It just can't be. And so we got back on the sideline, and the kids, surprisingly, were pretty optimistic. And, of course, we had just dodged a bullet, obviously, getting the touchdown. I wasn't as optimistic as they were, Tim, let me tell you that. But I told our guys, okay, get a good kickoff. And I got to mention this. Liam Smith, our freshman kicker, did such a great job of kicking off into the wind. You know, we got it, I think, 3 touchbacks with the wind, but he did a great job of kicking it inside the 10 and really flipping the field for us. I thought that was a huge part of this game. And so the kicking game, which I was really concerned about, hung in there and held up together. And again, as I say, Tim, that holding those guys to the second field goal was monumentally important.
So obviously you go to overtime and you get the ball first, scored pretty quickly, and then you hold Loras some great defense on 4 consecutive plays, 1st and goal.
Yes. They get a pass interference to get them 1st and goal on their 3rd play of the overtime. And
4
so,
consecutive plays,
4 consecutive passes. A couple trying to isolate one of our DBs on what we call a smash route. Outside receiver comes in low, inside receiver goes high and behind him. We made a couple good plays on that, and then they threw kind of a fade route up on the last one against, I think, our best defensive back in the conference. Again, Ty Guyman, and goes up and we deflect the pass and win 27-20. And man, I don't know, Tim, that was improbable, miraculous, whatever other terms you want to use. I'm at a loss for words, which doesn't happen often.
No.
But that thing, to me, kind of really, I thought of a couple things. One, our great stand against Cole that allowed us to get to that holding call down there, how our team has really played in such adverse situations and been able to find a way to succeed. And that really is a mark of a good team. And the thing that I said, Tim, we're so dang young. Maybe they don't know any better. I'm not quite sure, but they've really hung in there in tough situations.
Certainly a memorable game for anybody who was there at the Rock Bowl. 27-20, the final in overtime, and obviously the fruits of your reward sitting on the table.
I do want to say this key has been outside my office for, this is year 11 now, and what it has is the scores between us and Loras over the years, and this is really, I think, special to me and the players, but I think it's also special to the university, and we think it's in the right place for the next 365 days.
Well, it'll go back up here in the coach's office and hang there, like you said, for at least another year. And wow, what a game it was.
It was. It really was exciting. I don't know if fun is ever the right word to say in those games, but it was fun afterwards. Now, I want to say this. They played a hell of a game. They're a really good team. They're as good as anybody in the league, with probably the exception of Wartburg. And so hats off to those guys, and hats off to Steve. He's done a really nice job there.
Coach, good win for you, and that puts you in position where you have a chance at potentially need some help, but have a chance at becoming a conference champ. We'll talk about that when we return, as the Central College Dutch will come to Dubuque on Saturday, final day of the regular season at Chalmers Field. We'll return with more on udspartans.com with the UD Football Show with head coach Stan Zweifel in just a moment. We're back on the University of Dubuque Football Show here on this Monday night, here inside the coach's office on the campus of the University of Dubuque. Busy week this week on campus with the winter sports programs getting underway. Basketball starts this week, and I know wrestling's not too far away, and the cross-country team, I think, wraps up their season, and University of Dubuque football team will be wrapping up the regular season campaign at Chalmers Field against the Central College Dutch. And Coach, obviously tough opponent any year with Central coming in. And first of all, we'll talk about the special day. Some of your seniors will be, your seniors will be honored. Senior day and last game at Chalmers Field.
We'll have
so that's a big day.
Yep, we'll have 7 seniors walking, and it is a special day for them. It always is, and I always try to make it to honor them. But I also always tell our team, the most important thing is the game that we're playing. The way you can honor the seniors is play the best game you possibly can. Now, Central College comes in, and we all know last year, oh my God, were they might have been the best offensive team that I've seen in the conference since 2011, our offensive team. But they were just really difficult to defend. They are playing the same warp speed, up-tempo game that they played a year ago. They had a lot of seniors last year, and they have 31 seniors on their squad this year, a lot of 5th and 6th year players. They've made a change. The quarterback graduated and a couple of their receivers, but they are getting better as the season went on, has gone on, and they're really going to be a really good opponent. There's a couple things I think are really important for us in that game. Number one, you got to keep the ball out of their offensive hands because they just wear you out. We've timed them. Last week in their game against Luther, they ran a play every 8 seconds. I'd like to run a play every 80 seconds if I could, my friends. But they're running a play really, really fast. And so one of the things that has happened in the past with them, defenses can't get a line because they're so fast. And so what they create when you play zone against them is some favorable mismatch, either a leverage advantage or they've got a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1. So Our plan is to try to keep the ball out of their hands, and then this week we'll do as much tempo as we can. In other words, we'll have 4 or 5 plays scripted in that offense. We'll just move along down the field, our scout offense, and you can't simulate it to the extent that they do, but we've got to get our guys ready on that. Now, they've had a couple real tough losses. They lost to Loras at home in a very, I think, 37-31 or 37-34, high-scoring game. And then Cole beat him, I think, very close to the same score. And Cole was defense on the sidelines. Now, we're going to have the first real cold weather day of the season, and we're going to have some wind involved in that. That could affect their throw game a little bit more than it will affect ours because, you know, we're not trying to run tempo and throw it every down. They are still a good football team. There are times I look at them and say they're almost as good as they were last year. They have a new defensive coordinator who's got a little bit different defensive scheme than we've seen him play in the past. So we're prepping for that. That'll be an interesting part of the game. But I also think one of the things that's really important in this game is that you got to be able to match what they do. You can't let them just dictate the tempo all day to you because a year ago they did, and it was a disaster for us, Tim. I mean, we couldn't stop those guys. I mean, it was really, really frustrating for our coaching staff and our players. We've been very fortunate in the last 10 years. I believe I'm 5-5 against Central in the last 10 years. It's one of the 2 teams that when I took this job back in 2009, I identified that if you're going to win the league, you got to beat Wartburg or Central. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's been for a long time in the conference, and that's a team that we've always strived to try to be like them, to be put ourselves in a situation to be consistent and play well over the course of more than 1 year, and they've been able to do that. I don't know how many consecutive winning seasons they have. They have a ton of it.
Yeah.
And so we want to really be in a situation where we can match that a little bit. So what's happened when beating Loras, it's given us an opportunity to play for a potential conference championship. And I'll just mention, and Tim's really not trying to steal any thunder from you, we have to beat Central or it doesn't matter. The season's over if we don't beat Central. Cole then has to beat Wartburg, which would put a 3-way tie at 3 teams 7-1, and all 3 teams had beaten the other one, so we're all 1-1 as you go across the board. Our conference rule is if there's a 3-way tie and nobody's got the advantage in head-to-head, you then use the old Big Ten Rose Bowl back in the 60s and 70s. The last team to go is the first one in when there's a 3-way tie. Wartburg went in 19, Cole went in 16, and we went in 15. So by that process, as you work down, we would get the automatic qualifying bid if we win and Cole wins. Now, boy, there's a lot of moving parts in that one, my friend. First of all, we have to beat Central, which is going to be a monumental chore. And then secondly, Cole's got to beat Wartburg, which is going to be as equally difficult for them. But I think I mentioned in our radio show maybe 4 weeks ago when this run started, I thought Cole has the best chance matching up about what they do to have a chance against Wartburg, and that is they run the ball and are really a good physical defensive team. I think that's what you need to do to be able to beat Cole, and beat Wartburg. And at halftime we were down 12-0 against Wartburg, so we were trying to execute that plan. We just couldn't do it offensively that day.
You mentioned running the ball. Teams have had success against Central this year. Has that been their biggest obstacle defensively?
I think there's 2 things that have happened to Central. They play such warp speed that their defense plays a lot of snaps. They have given up more yards defensively this year than they have in the past couple, but I think people are running more plays, and they've given up more big plays this year than they have in the past. And that's been really specifically in the throw game. But again, you got to have all those things come together at that time. We got to get them off the field. We got to stay on the field. It's going to be the coldest game we've played so far this year. There's going to be some wind. So you've got to take care of the ball in special teams. But it should be a wonderful atmosphere for our kids. It's been a really interesting year, Tim. Because, at one time we were 1-3, and it was like holy cow, things don't look very good.
Yeah.
And I think we had mentioned, I know I'd mentioned to our kids, I think we got a chance to go on a little bit of run here. Me saying it doesn't make it so, but you playing it does. So I think our kids have something really to play for, and we're hoping that that all manifests itself in a really good game.
It's been a really competitive series since you've been here. I think 5-7 is the record, but 5-5 over the last 10, and it's almost where
pretty
teams have
identical.
traded games. Yeah.
The real big blowout was last year. They got after us like, oh my gosh, it was something. So that never affects this year's team. And they don't, whatever. I mean, it's like the Cubs hadn't played in the World Series in 100 years. Who remembers 100 years, right? But I say all the time, we've put ourselves, and we have put ourselves in this position. So, holy cow, have a chance to take opportunity of that, and we got to see if we can play well and beat Central. And then the other part we can't control. We'll just have to see what happens.
1 o'clock kickoff here at Chalmers Field as the Spartans take on the Central College Dutch. And if you can't make the ball game, you can watch it on the live stream at udspartans.com. And Coach, we got one more show, and hopefully
let's have another one after that too. Huh? We could. It'd be interesting. Yeah. We could. I do want to thank you, Tim, for all the coverage you've given us and all the good things that happen, and it's been a wonderful, fun time for me. And I think, like anything else, every coach remembers every season based on some things. Now, I'm not going to forget last Saturday's game for a while. Are you kidding me? But I told our staff this morning, this is Monday. I mean, think back to Cole, how we could have lost that game. We wouldn't be talking about this. We could have lost Saturday's game, wouldn't be talking about this. We've overcome some injuries and hung in there. And so I'm really proud of the staff and the men, how they responded this year.
Coach, look forward to seeing the outcome of that contest between Central and Dubuque. And again, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Looking forward to it, Tim.
All right, that is head football coach Stan Zweifel, University of Dubuque, joining us here on the UD Football Show. Well, we'll come back and we'll have some final thoughts. But first, we're going to check in with Tom Robbins, Executive Director of the Heritage Center, Holidays at the Heritage Center. Tom's going to major on that here in this segment. Then we'll come back and finish out the UD Football Show here on udspartans.com.
Hello again, everybody. Tom Robbins here at UD Heritage Center, and we've got some great holiday events coming up here soon on the Butler Hall stage. First, the time-honored tradition of Christmas at Heritage Center takes the stage with choir, band, organ, and strings in a wonderful concert celebration of our Lord's birth. This 10th anniversary performance is guaranteed to put you in the Christmas spirit. Join us Friday, December 2nd for this perennial holiday favorite, showcasing the impressive talents of UD's music students and faculty. Next up is a national touring production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. New Hampshire-based Perseverance Productions brings this iconic tale to Dubuque for one night only, Monday, December 5th. This new twist on an old classic features a large cast, lush costumes, stunning sets, puppetry, a timeless message, and 26 beloved Christmas carols accompanied by flute, guitar, and violin. It's a large-scale production you don't want to miss, A Christmas Carol, Monday, December 5th at Heritage Center. There are also a handful of tickets available for the Texas Tenors Deep in the Heart of Christmas, presented by the Dubuque Arts Council on Saturday, December 10th. We hope to see you for many of these holiday performances at Heritage Center. And for tickets, don't forget you can call our box office from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday at 563-585-SHOW, that's 585-7469, or anytime online at dbq.edu/Heritage Center. From all of us at Heritage, happy holidays.
And thanks to Tom Robbins for joining us on the UD Football Show and sharing what's coming up at the Heritage Center. Make sure you get your tickets for those great holiday events, and you can go on the University of Dubuque's website and find the link to the Heritage Center and order those right there from the convenience of your computer or mobile device, and enjoy Christmas from the Heritage Center. Thanks, Coach Zweifel, for joining us again tonight here on the UD Football Show. We'll talk with Coach next Monday night at 6 o'clock. We'll have lots to discuss and hopefully lots to look forward to, perhaps, if things go the Spartans' way coming up on Saturday. And again, thanks for tuning in here on udspartans.com. From the University of Dubuque football offices, I'm Tim Lary. Have a great evening.